So, time for some manual sample preparation on this equipment here. I will demonstrate that for you, and after that you will be professional. Before you start to work, you should read this document, which you can get from me. It's a document that tells you the basics of manual sample preparation, both when it comes to cutting, which you can find in another film sequence, and mounting, and so forth. And inside this document, you will, on page 2, find a guide to help you to sort between different grit sizes on grinding papers and translate it to micrometer. I will talk a lot about that, so you need to know what I'm talking about. I will demonstrate this doing a preparation method described on page 3 for low carbon steel. And I have a sample with low carbon steel, so this description works very well for that. This description also works, or this method also works for many other materials than low carbon steel, but it's best for that. But you can try it with many metals and also with other materials such as polymers. It will work pretty good also. So now I will start. The first thing I do when I come to the machine is to round off this sharp edge of the sample. First, the edge that is here, where I hold the sample, and then this edge also. It is not as important, but I will do it anyway, because later on, when I come to polishing on a soft cloth, it might grip the sample if this edge is very sharp. But first of all, this edge here. Though I have to start with replacing the paper, which might be good to know also how to do. So, this ring here, this one, holds the paper. Throw the old paper away. And I will start on a paper with a grit size of P240. You can read it on the back of the paper here, P240. This is the American grit size. P240 is the European standard. This paper sticks a little bit better on the disc if I wet it with water. To turn the water on, you use this knob here, water. You can choose to have it on run active when we start the machine, or just water like that. If no water comes, it might be that valve that needs to be adjusted. Okay, a little bit of water on the disc. As I said, it makes the paper, it stays better there with a little bit of water underneath. And then the ring. Like that. Then I turn the machine on. No water. And I would like to describe one thing for you. Sometimes if you turn the machine on run stop here, nothing happens. One reason for that can be that somebody by mistake touched that one. It's a timer function, and the timer function is at 0 now, so that means that it doesn't work. If you would like to have the timer function, you can set 1 minute and it will work. But easiest is to turn the timer off and it will work every time. You can select on this one, so the water starts automatically by go to run active. So I do that. And now I have water on the machine. And before I start grinding, I would like to show you one more thing. Here you have a knob where you can adjust the speed from very low to 500. My suggestion is that you work in the neighborhood of 250 to 300. It's a speed that makes it easy to control the sample. If you go higher, which you're allowed to do, it might be more difficult. Too low, it might cost you too much time. So now I do what I said. I will grind the edge off. So first I will grind this edge off a little bit. I turn the sample and also grind the top edge off a little bit as well. After that, it's time to start to grind the surface of the metal. I hope you can see that the scratches from cutting comes in that direction now. Anyway, they do, I promise you, and I will put the sample down with these scratches going perpendicular to the movement of the grains on the grinding paper. The reason for that is that if I do that, it's much easier to see when old scratches are removed and new scratches are introduced. So I start now and I put the sample down, and usually I hold with both hands, and I concentrate much more on holding it flat than pressing on the sample. I have some pressure on, but I concentrate more on holding it flat. And after a few seconds I check, and I can see that I'm grinding, but I haven't been grinding the whole surface, so I haven't been holding it flat. So next time I put it down, I put a little bit more pressure on the, in this case, the back side of the sample from your view. Check again. Yes, I'm going in the right direction. And a little bit more. And now the whole surface is ground. Maybe it's difficult to see, but now I have scratches in that direction. I will tell you, I'm rinsing the sample, and I should have told you when I started, it's very important to clean the sample between every step. Otherwise, I will transport these particles, 240 grit particles. If you remember from the paper I gave you, 240 grit particles are about 60 micrometer. I will transport them to my next step, and I will have scratches from those particles on that stage too. So it's important to clean between every step. Moving to the next step, I have to change machine, so I turn this one off. So now I will move on from the first step on P240 paper to the next step, which is here on this machine, on P600 paper. And P600, it's 25 micrometers. So I'm moving from 60 micrometer to 25 micrometer silicon carbide particles here. I turn the machine on, same as on the other machine. Water is running, and I have already prepared it with a P600 paper here. From last step, I rotate the sample 90 degrees, so I get the scratches coming in perpendicular again, you remember? Put the sample down, grind a little bit, check how am I doing. Pretty good. I have to press a little bit more on the back side. Looks pretty good. A little bit more. And now I'm satisfied with that. You might be interested in how long time you should use for grinding a sample, and it's very difficult to answer that question. It depends on the size of the sample. Bigger sample, longer time. It depends on the hardness of the sample. The harder it is, the longer time. But a rule of thumb is that if you grind it until the old scratches has disappeared, at the same time again you have removed not only the scratches but also the deformation underneath. But remember, it's a rule of thumb, it's not a truth. So, cleaning again, because I'm moving on soon. To the next step, which I will do on P1200 paper, and P1200 is 15 micrometer. It might be possible to jump over this step before you go to polishing on cloth, but I usually do this grinding step also and think that I save some time on that. So coming here, with scratches coming in that direction, I rotate the sample 90 degrees and put it down and grind again. And as before, I check rather quickly after putting it down and see how it goes. Now it's flat. And I'm satisfied there. I rinse the sample and maybe you can see how it looks. Okay, there are at least one more thing that I would like to take the opportunity to tell you about before I leave this grinding, and it is that you should be aware of where you have your fingers when you grind. It's very easy when you concentrate hard on holding the sample that your fingertips come down towards the grinding paper. And since we have water here, which is, well, not ice cold, but it's still a little bit cold, it has an anesthetic effect on your fingertips. So you might not notice when you grind your finger like that. And for a short while it doesn't matter, but if you do it for a long time, you grind off the surface of your skin, and when it dries, you get a terrible pain there. So think about that. So after grinding the sample on 3 different papers, P240, P600 and P1200, and P1200 is 15 micrometer, I will now move on to what you call polishing. Polishing is performed on a cloth instead of a grinding paper, and it is done on this machine here. So if I start preparing the machine, I take the cover off. I like to show you the inside of the machine. It is a plate in here, and this plate is a magnetic. Magnetic is the reason because we need to be able to put polishing cloth on it. Polishing cloth looks like that. It is self-adhesive, but it sticks on a sheet metal bottom here. So with a magnetic holder, it works like that. Put it back into the machine. The first polishing step will be with 9-micron diamonds. And I think I have not mentioned diamonds yet. We worked with silicon carbide before, and now we work with diamonds instead. So 9 is coming after the 15-micron step on grinding paper. The cloth looks like that. It's a little bit of white in the middle, otherwise it looks quite dirty there. I would like to show you how a new cloth looks. I have prepared it back here. I have a new cloth, and a completely new one looks like that. This contaminated cloth works very well for polishing, even though it looks like that. It works very well if previous users have cleaned their samples properly between every step. If they haven't been cleaning the sample, they will transport particles to this cloth that is much bigger than 9 micron, and it will not work. But with proper cleaning, it works very well. But just to let you know, a new cloth looks like that. By the way, these cloths are stored in this holder here. And here it's marked with 9 micron for the one that I will use now. And we have 6, 3, 1, quarter of a micron diamonds, and then we have a top one here for final polishing. I will talk more about final polishing later on. It's only one size of diamonds on each cloth, so because of that we have separate ones. Put it into the machine. Normally it's quite a lot of diamonds on the cloth, but if you need to fill up with more diamonds, you can find more of them on the shelf up here. But add more only when you see that no action is on the sample, not much is happening. Then on a rotating cloth, add 2 more sprays, 1 or 2 more sprays. I will show you that later on too. So now I start polishing on the first step. Same here, you can adjust the speed. Adjust it to something where you think you're comfortable with holding the sample, around 300 for me. Also, you will need an extender. It's called Kemet W2. It's very difficult to read here, but it is, and it's water-based. It's most water with some additive. And this is added because we don't want the surface to be dry. It must not be wet, but it should be moist. So with the wet surface, 9 micron cloth, I start polishing, and I change tactics from compared to when I was grinding. So instead of holding it still, I move it around like this. I move it in the opposite direction compared to how the wheel rotates. So between the polishing steps, it might be good to clean the sample a little bit better with a little bit of soap. And it also might be interesting to see how the sample looks after 9 micron step, and to be able to see that you can clean it with some ethanol or methanol maybe. Rinse away the water with ethanol and then use this cotton swab to wipe away the ethanol like that. Then the surface looks like that. I hope you can see it in the camera. So now I will continue to polish on 3 micron diamond and finish with what I call final polishing. So please follow. So after finishing the 9 micron step, cleaning the sample properly, I move on to the 3 micron step. And I can find a cloth in this cabinet, again, marked 3 micron. And as a matter of fact, I will not demonstrate this. I have already done it, but just to let you know, this is the 3 micron one. So after cleaning the sample after the 3 micron step, it's time to move on to final polishing. In the description I gave you, I also mentioned 1 micron diamond as a possible step, but as a matter of fact, this final polishing is very effective. So usually on a low carbon steel, it will work to go directly from 3 micron to final polishing. Final polishing is, instead of diamonds, made with a suspension of silicon dioxide, which we also store up on the shelf here. colloidal silica, silicon dioxide. The particle size is 0.06 micrometers, so it's very, very much smaller than 3 micron, 0.06. But the number of particles is very high. They are also very, very sharp, so they remove a lot of material per time unit. So we will use that one. We will also use a slightly different cloth. It's kept on top of this stack in a plastic bag, and the reason for that is that we would like to keep it wet between the different users. The cloth is different in a way that it's a short nap on the cloth. The surface is velvet-like, if I try to describe it. And it's very white. I put it into the machine. And when you use a final polishing cloth and a final polishing suspension such as that one, you should always do it on a pre-wet cloth, preferably with distilled water. I don't have any distilled water here, and as a matter of fact the Luleå river water works pretty good anyway. And always during final polishing sequences you should start with a cloth that is pre-wet with preferably distilled water. I don't have it at the moment, so I will use tap water. It works pretty good as a matter of fact, but preferably distilled water. So on a rotating cloth, I turn the water on, like that. And I turn it off again there because I will talk a little bit more. I leave the water on, but let it come between the cloth and this edge here. You will notice later on why I do that. This suspension here is as I mentioned, very, very sharp, small particles, but it also dries a little bit here under the cap and on the neck here. And these dry particles, they can be much, much bigger than 0.06 micrometer. I'm not sure you can see them. So to avoid to get them on the cloth, we don't spray it. We fill it in a cup. Like that. And since these small particles are suspended in the water, suspended means that they are staying everywhere in this water solution. Any larger particles will be too heavy to be suspended. The suspension forces will be too small, so they will sink down to the bottom. And when I add this suspension from the edge of the cup, I will get only small particles. So, pre-wet cloth, add a little bit of the suspension, start the machine, a speed where you're comfortable with holding the sample onto the cloth, and I put it down. As I mentioned, is the cloth a little bit napped, and even though I ground off the edge of the sample, it might grip the sample and you might lose it. You will not hurt yourself, but it will make some noise anyway, but you don't have to be scared about that. So as for diamond polishing, I move the sample around like this. I put a little bit more of the the silicon dioxide suspension on. And I keep polishing. And I would like to give you an advice here, and that is that you should not over polish on a napped cloth like this one. 1 to 2 minutes on a steel sample, not more. There are exceptions for longer polishing time, but for manual polishing, 1 to 2 minutes on a napped cloth. So I'm satisfied there, as a matter of fact. Now you will see why I left the water on here. Now I will move this into the center of the cloth even increase the amount of water a little bit, and I will leave it to rinse the cloth, and also it sprays out water into the machine here, into the tray here, and cleans that at the same time. And I will go over to the sink and clean my sample. So, cleaning again for the final time, hopefully. Water. Soap is not necessary after final polishing. It's enough with water. But water is very active on a freshly polished surface, so ethanol is a must to remove the water from here. Otherwise the sample will corrode, at least if it's a steel sample. It might be good also to take one of these cotton pads to clean the sample. I wet it with methanol, and then I wipe the surface to remove silicon dioxide residuals. When I wipe it with ethanol and leaving a thin layer like that, it evaporates quite quickly. So personally I prefer cotton and ethanol, but I will show you an alternative method as well. If you just rinse away the water with ethanol, like this, leave a layer on top, you can also use the fan to wash away the ethanol from the surface, or dry away the ethanol from the surface. It also works pretty well, but I prefer cotton, as I said before. So now if we zoom in on the sample, maybe you can, in best case, you can see a mirror-like surface. This is how it should look. I move it around a little bit, so with the reflections maybe you can observe it somehow. And if it's full of scratches, maybe you did one of the steps too fast, or maybe there was some dirt on some cloth, but as I've said before, if you clean the sample between every step, it will be very rare to find big particles on the wrong disc. So now only one thing remains, and that is cleaning of the machine. So maybe you remember I left the water running on this rotating disc, and I said that this will automatically clean the cloth, and it has done now, so I turn it off. Take the wet cloth like that and put it into the plastic bag to keep it wet, or at least moist, until the next user comes and wants to use it. This polishing suspension costs about 750 Swedish crowns per liter. So because of that, we recycle it, or we use this again. So I pour the remainings back into the bottle. And this cup I will rinse and recycle again. It's very, very cheap, but it's very, very easy to rinse with just cold water. So I won't let you see that, but I put it away here for later on. The machine itself needs to be cleaned also. Now I've only made one sample, so it's very easy to clean, but cleaning is necessary. It might be good to take this one away to the sink and wash it. You can perhaps take the plate away also and wash it. And I will get a brush, if you hang on. I can use the water from the machine and brush the inside like this. It's very, very easy to do if you do it immediately afterwards. And if this is not done, then this polishing suspension will eventually fill up the drain of the machine so we can't get anything out. So it's necessary to clean. But I only did one sample, so it's a very quick operation. Wipe the outside of the machine. Like this. Put the magnetic disc back. And the protective ring, which I didn't wash this time, but should be done. Like that. That doesn't fit. So. And the cover on. When you're finished, everything should look a little bit better compared to when you came. It doesn't have to look a lot better, but a little bit better. Good luck with your samples. Another thing that you should think about is, I will take another sample to show that to you. And now I do this rather quickly, grinding edges off. Like that. That will have to do. And what I would like to show you is what can happen when you try to hold the sample flat towards the grinding paper. It might have looked easy when I did it the first time, but what can happen is that when you put it down and try to put a little bit more pressure on the other side, or the back end or the forward end, this might happen. That you get one surface there and another there, and sometimes even a third and a fourth there. You get a facette-like surface. That is very, very easy to achieve. And it's not wanted. You want the whole surface flat. The solution to this is, if you get it on finer papers, you should go back to more coarse papers. For instance, 240 grit paper. It's easier to repair then. And then do as I told you in the beginning, concentrate more on holding it flat than pressing. That will help you to repair the sample. So I won't finish it now, but remember, this can happen. It can look like that also. It will get better with training, of course.